Ladies and gentlemen, we are now going to move into the education spotlight, which is the highlight of the day. And we all know how education has transformed in recent times. And our last session for today is the education spotlight, which is on learning for life, creating a better future. And we have some amazing spotlight speakers. It is my honor to actually introduce them to you. We have Padma Shri Professor S.P. Kothari, who is the Gordon Y. Billard Professor of Accounting and Finance from MIT Sloan School of Management. He is joining in from Massachusetts, USA. Professor Kothari has senior executive experience in government, academia, and industry with expertise in strategic and policy issues, securities regulation, auditing, and corporate governance. Most recently, he served as the chief economist and director of the Division of Economic and Risk Analysis at the US Securities and Exchange Commission from 2019 to 2021. In academia, Professor Kothari was Deputy Dean of MIT Sloan School of Management between 2010 till 2015, and previously he headed the Department of Economics, Finance, and Accounting at MIT. In addition, he co-chaired the Board of Governors of Asia School of Business, Kuala Lumpur, and he served as the faculty director of the MIT India program and edited the world-renowned academic publication, Journal of Accounting and Economics. Professor Kothari is a recipient of numerous awards for his scholarship, including India's Padma Shri Award in 2020, honorary doctorates from London Business School, University of Cyprus, and University of Technology, Sydney, and American Accounting Association's Distinguished Contributions to the Accounting Literature Award. We warmly welcome you, Professor S.P. Kothari, sir. It is an honor to have you with us today. Our heartiest congratulations and regards on being awarded the Padma Shri for the year 2020, the fourth highest civilian award of the Republic of India for contribution to literature and education. We are very privileged to have you with us, sir. We welcome you. Our next spotlight speaker today will be Miss Janine Teo. She is the CEO of Solve Education Singapore. Solve Education is an education technology not-for-profit with the mission of delivering quality education to everyone, focusing on the bottom of the pyramid demographic. Ms. Janine is the first Asian to receive the International Intellectual Benefits to Society Award by Mensa International. She is also an advisor to Asian Development Bank on digital technology for development and a fellow of the University of Pennsylvania Global Social Impact House. She is one of the 51 most impactful social innovators recognized by World CSR Day and has received the Women Super Achievers Award by World HRD Congress and has been recognized by the World Education Congress with an Education Leader Award. We warmly welcome you, Ms. Janine Teo. Our next spotlight speaker is Mr. Giri Balasubramaniam, who is a renowned educator, quizmaster, and a Harvard alumni. He is an Indian Administrative Fellow at the Department of Education, Government of Karnataka. Mr. Giri Balasubramaniam, also known as Big Brain, is an educator and noted quizmaster. His company, Grey Caps, has pioneered educational initiatives across Asia, catering to a staggering 16 million youngsters. As a quizmaster, Giri sir has hosted over 2,500 shows across 9 countries. He is the only quizmaster in the world to have hosted quizzes at the iconic Royal Opera House, London. Prior to his entrepreneurial journey, Giri sir worked with the Economic Times and Walt Disney for close to a decade. He's a recipient of several awards and was mentored by Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam himself. He is one among the 11 professionals chosen from amongst 2,000 for the 18 months Indian Administrative Fellowship Program, which has been launched by the Government of Karnataka, a pioneering initiative in the PPP model to have corporate leaders work alongside senior IAS officers in various departments to provide solutions to developmental problems. We warmly welcome you, Mr. Giri Balasubramaniam, sir. And this spotlight session will be hosted by Dr. Suborno Bose, who is the founder of Young Tech Olympiad. He's the founder and chief mentor IIHM and IndySmart Group worldwide. A chartered accountant with over 30 years of entrepreneurial experience in India and abroad, and the founder and chief mentor of the IndySmart Group, which consists of International Institute of Hotel Management, commonly known as IIHM, which is today regarded as one of the key leaders in the field of international hospitality management education in India. Dr. Suborno Bose is the country's best-known hospitality educator. The latest upcoming endeavor and brainchild of Visionary Education's Dr. Suborno Bose is the Young Tech Olympiad in association with TCS. YTO will be the best competitive platform for young students to fulfill their dreams in technology and win exciting prizes in cash or in kind. YTO aims to enhance the awareness about technology in the young minds and create a platform for the students to execute their knowledge in the field of modern technology. We warmly welcome you, sir. And can we have the screen with all the speakers, please? Yes, yes, there they are, our spotlight speakers and Dr. Suborno Bose. Now I hand over the session to you, Dr. Bose, to continue the session, Learning for Life, Creating a Better Future. Over to you, sir.
Thank you so much, Raki, and a very good evening from India, and very good afternoon from London, from where I'm right now with you, with some amazing people, and discussing a very, very important topic, learning for life, creating a better future. I think as an educationist, as people who are in education for a number of years, we are absolutely committed for the future of the citizens of the world. And this particular topic, I think, is something that is very relevant and contemporary at the background of the present situation that is undergoing and sweeping the world, given the last 2 years of COVID pandemic. And I'm like to thank INFOCOM 2021 and Mr. Dhruvo Mukherjee, the CEO of ABP, for making sure that in spite of the pandemic, the flag and the flame of the INFOCOM was up and burning. And it's not easy to get some of the best people all over the world to come and talk, but then what has been achieved by INFOCOM 2021 is incredible, and thanks very much for that. I'd like to be absolutely honored to have some amazing speaker today, Professor Dr. S.P. Kothari, Padma Shri, and once again, congratulations, sir, for the great Padma Shri award, which you was bestowed in 2020. Miss Janine Teo from CEO Solve Education Singapore, and my good friend Giri Balasubramaniam, who is a renowned educationist, Quizmaster, and of course now also an Indian administrative fellow for Department of Education, Government of Karnataka, and brain behind a lot of projects. So welcome, Giri, and it's such a pleasure to have all of you in this very, very interesting webinar. Well, we all know that the lifelong education is something that is the core of today's educational strategy, because there is so much of things changing. I will not say every year, but every month, every week, every day, whether it is technology, whether it is based on the COVID-19 situations, or whether it's just being there, the ecosystem of education is going from one side to other side. I think it's very important for the educationers and the educationists to keep track, to change, embrace the change, and transform the life of the students and the citizens of the world to the new world that's coming. And I think COVID have at least taught us one very important lesson, and that lesson is that change was imperative. COVID pushed a lot of change, and we all really learned a lot from there. So I think it's very important. Long time back, Mahatma Gandhi told that literacy is not the beginning of education. It's not even the end. And today we understand that literacy is truly not the only thing. It's just one of the things in education. One element of education is literacy, but the bigger element is this transformation, is this technological interference, and how technology is actually pushing the educational strategy, educational reforms, and the educational strategy where we are teaching in the universities, colleges, and in schools at a totally different way, which we used to do 2 years back. So hopefully in a country like India, offline classes are back in the colleges and universities. It's still not back in the school in a big way, but hopefully it will be back unless the new virus creates any kind of a big problems. So I think it's very important that our discussion today we will pinpoint to your views and your ideas, your strategies, and how we can together take the modern education to the area where it is all about lifelong training. It's all about transforming the education to the new ecosystem that the world is now running on, and also making sure that changing and the changes and in education is something that our teachers, educators must embrace. I'm sure that we have got some great thing to discuss. So first I will go to Padma Shri, Dr. Kothari sir, to come up and to put on your views on this lifelong education and how you feel that we should take the education strategy forward. Over to you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Bose. Really appreciate. Warm good evening to everyone. Delighted to be part of this panel. Very distinguished group of individuals. And more importantly, I think the topic is relevant and important. So as I reflected on what to say on a panel on learning for life, a better future, I wasn't certain whether the focus is on education in general toward improving the quality of life, or how lifelong learning can be helpful in bettering lives. My comments are on the need for and benefits of lifelong learning. Now, much of the focus of education tends to be on K through 12 or college-going population. That's what education, most of us tend to think about it. But unfortunately, especially in many developing countries, but this is true of all countries, but especially of developing countries, a large fraction of the adult population is not well educated. This is just unfortunate fact. Naturally, this adversely affects their productivity and therefore income and the quality of life. We cannot afford to ignore this population. And that's, in my opinion, one place where lifelong learning comes in. It's applicable more broadly, but it certainly can be targeted to this large segment of the population that, for whatever reason, I'm not trying to be judgmental, for whatever reason, has not enjoyed the benefits of education. So for the benefit of this segment, as well as the welfare of the nation, focus ought to be also on adult learning, for the topic for the day, learning for life, creating a better future. Now, we should be realistic and acknowledge that for this segment, vocational training type of adult learning has greater promise than traditional education offered to youths. You know, when a kid goes to school, we tend to teach them basics of be it languages or mathematics, science, history, so on and so forth. I think for the adult population, when they are focusing on getting educated, the opportunity that was deprived for whatever reason in their youthful days, still, I think the focus ought to be on vocational training, and that can go a long way in enhancing worker productivity, and the investment in education would pay for itself. So I always, as an economist, I tend to look at both demand and supply. Fortunately, technology is a huge asset in facilitating lifelong education. Technology offers scale. I mean, you know, with online education, you can literally beam that educational instruction to thousands, if not hundreds of thousands. There's on-demand, asynchronous, as well as synchronous educational opportunities, and the cost can be low. It's really cost-effective. The supply side is thus well taken care of, but demand won't be high unless adults see a benefit. And that's where my emphasis on vocational training. This is where businesses and organizations can be helpful by making the rewards explicit to those with better skills acquired through education. This will create an interest among the adults for lifelong learning, and we will be coming up with a sustainable solution for better life. Let me pause here and would love to listen to my co-panelists, and then we will have discussion Q&A also. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And now I'll come, your point of the vocational education, Dr. Kothari, is absolutely correct according to me also. I work in the vocational sector for the last 32 years now, and I fully agree with what you have said, that vocational education is the solution for a country like India, where we need to put need-based, employment-based education rather than just a degree giving, certificate giving, traditional education. I'll come back to on that to you. I'll come to Janine, Mrs. Teo, and welcome from Singapore. And you have been working with marginalized communities for a long time, Ms. Teo, and of course, you have been working with a lot of people. Mrs. Teo, so you have been working with a lot of people at the marginalized communities, and also with people who are at the bottom of the pyramid. So for you, the lifelong learning and learning for a better future has gotten, I think, completely different point of view and different connotation than the general courses or general K-2 and 12 education. If you can come and share with us your views on this.
Thank you so much, Dr. Bose. And I just want to comment on Professor Kothari's points, because I feel like you're reading my mind, right? Most research have shown that investment in two things in terms of their education journey, early childhood and vocational training. These two are the ones that yields the highest ROI, right? And early childhood is where we need to already invest in young children to form their growth mindset and ignite their curiosity. And then of course vocational training, I think Professor Kothari would have much more comments than me, but in the current scenario, in the current world today, not only in India but also in ASEAN countries or in Africa, or around the world, there is globally a high youth unemployment rate, right? And exactly really because there is lack of focus on vocational schools, and also maybe the image of vocational training, right, that is not appealing to parents. So so far, a lot of the education systems have been doing demand-driven education. So basically, what do let me just take a few steps back, right? Demand is what the market demand, and the supply is what the education system produce, right? So many education system actually produce a lot of youth in different having different sort of degrees, but not really thinking what their market might need. So, and unfortunately, because education systems and curriculum usually run, are trying to keep up with market trends, right? So therefore, how can we move from a supply-driven education to a demand-driven education? I think that is something that a lot of governments are thinking about. Let me circle back to the main topic of today, the future of work, right? So I think that really the future of work is a strong influencer to ignite or to help increase this focus on continuous learning, right? Because I think that, one career for the rest of our lives, at least, maybe for my generation or the generations after, is not going to be realistic anymore. In fact, the kids today, I think I read a research that 65% of them will work in jobs that do not exist today, right? So if that is so, actually, continuous learning is no longer a choice, right? It is a must. So how can we design a world where everybody can and is able to, continuously improve themselves? Now, continuous learning sounds like an easy concept, but to have growth mindset, learning something, first, you need the hard skills, right? The foundational skills, which is, literacy is not the everything of education, but it is a very strong foundational skills, right? Like math is also a very strong foundational skills. And only with these skills, you can build on other skills. And sadly, like what Professor Kothari's talk has mentioned, in developing countries, a lot of the people, adults or young children, don't have that strong foundational skills. I think that's one. Another barrier, to continuous learning is the grit, right? Because when we are learning something, it is actually meaning that we are doing something that's out of our comfort zone. That's not easy. So because of that, and because the rewards are not instantaneous, people give up very easily, right? Especially in marginalized community. And hence, we all know that despite having so many free courses, so many education technology products, right, but retention still remain, low. So I think there are a few challenges that we need to address, right, when it comes to continuous learning. And then if I just add on a third point, which is continuous learning in the in the context of marginalized community, how do we design first technology that is accessible by them in the low end phones that they have access to, or with the internet connectivity that they have access to? That's one. And considering that there are many other things that they need to think about or address on their daily lives, right? How do we design education where it's bite-sized enough so that they can learn and apply in fairly quickly? Those are the different things that we need to consider, when designing for, marginalized communities. I'll stop here. Thank you.
Thank you so very much. I think you have reflected on the continuous learning, and which is absolutely correct when you said that this is not an option anymore. This is the fact of life. And of course, skills. I think Professor Kothari also mentioned that skills are very important as well, because the vocational education skills are the DNA of our modern day education. So coming to Mr. Giri Balasubramaniam, again coming almost on a similar thing where Mrs. Teo was talking about the children, the future readiness. I know that you have been doing some amazing work on this in Karnataka and in elsewhere in the country. So what are your views on this future readiness of the children, and especially where the ever-changing strategies of learning and teaching are not really transformed to the educators? I think this is one of the problems we always face, that we in the webinars and seminars talk about a lot of things, but when it comes to realistically on the classroom, you don't find that the people are very ready to change and to bring in the classroom the new technologies or the new facet. So if you can put some light on that also, Mr. Giri. Thank you.
Right. I'm no economist. Professor Kothari would probably validate my comment. But I think honestly, if there is one sector which benefited the most out of this pandemic, it would be education. It really shook education up compulsively. We did not have a choice. The schools had to change. I think world over, this was the best way to give all our teachers a crash course in PowerPoint, probably starting from that to everything that they adapted with. What happened, which was fantastic, is the way the education sector responded to this. They had no choice but to keep the schools open, digitally albeit, and it really ran. How they learned, how they adapted is amazing. Country after country, people found ways to keep their students engaged. In countries like India, we had yoga and dancing and music all happening online. So people say we are entering a VUCA world. And when you get into a vulnerable world where things can be uncertain, I think two things have emerged, which is very clear. While we're talking of continuous learning, what is there to stay, which we really understand, and the response to that is perhaps continuous learning, is two things. In my view, there is now compulsive unlearning that is part of our lives. You've got to let go of things you do not have a choice. The second is constant unlearning, which has again become a part of our lives. So we've pretty much become like Android versions. You quite don't have a choice but to upgrade to the next version. Otherwise, there will come a time when your software will stop working. So I think from that perspective, people have opened themselves up, opened their minds up to continuous learning. That's the first step. The second step is to make that continuous learning a lifelong learning. If that bridge can be crossed, and if that can become part of the DNA of people, and they can understand that you're going to constantly require new skills, you're going to constantly require to be progressive, and more than anything else, for one's own self-esteem, I think lifelong learning is critical. I'll pause at that moment and allow it to move from there.
I will also continue to ask you, because you are for many years known as India's top Quizmaster. In fact, you have been in INFOCOM, and we met over the last few years, and integral part of INFOCOM, in fact, for the last few years. Thanks very much for all your contribution to INFOCOM. And as a Quizmaster, you also provided some continuous learning strategies for college students and also for corporate, based on some fun learning from true quizzes and other alternate means of learning strategy. Can you just tell all of us about it so that we can all learn from you?
Well, I think Janine summarized it beautifully in 2 words. My business is perhaps just about igniting curiosity. She said that in her opening remark. That's what we do. I'm probably one of those rare people in the world who gets paid for asking questions. But that's besides the point. Professor Kothari would probably say, well, my students hate me for the questions I ask. I get paid for it, Prof. But that's India. You know how India is. The more questions you ask, the more popular you are, unfortunately. But if we can use that as a tool to make people feel that a sport or a gamified version can be a learning tool, that's really what quizzing is. We've never used quiz to test the intellect of another person. It's not assessment. It's enlightenment through questioning oneself. And I've always said this, your best friend is your knowledge of how ignorant you are. And if you are ignorant and you feel, hey, I didn't know this, and that becomes your quest to learn, I think that's really what quizzes try to do. And Well, I guess INFOCOM happens in a region where inquisitiveness is part of the DNA of Eastern India. So I quite, relish being there. But that's really the pedagogical side, if one may say, to quizzing. It triggers that curiosity in you to know more. I think that's what Janine touched on.
That's fantastic. I'll come back to Padma, Shri, Professor Kothari. Professor Kothari, we spoke about, and especially Janina spoke about challenges, and we all know that, especially at an Indian context, I'm saying that there are indeed challenges of the delivery of the lifelong teaching and learning as well. So do you suggest that our teachers do something like a continued professional advancement program? Like I'm a chartered accountant by education, so we used to have this every 2 years, have to go for an exam to have their professional competence refined and refreshed, if I can use the word, because things changes so fast. If you don't know what's changing, you cannot be in a business. So I will really ask you about what you feel about this.
There's no question that, just as we say that technology is changing, so the users have to keep up with that technology and or new knowledge, new developments. That is applicable also to teachers. I mean, they cannot be teaching the same thing that we used to teach 20, 30, 40 years ago. So we have to keep up with time. And that's why when teachers, we say that, well, you're working 40 hours a week, then maybe only 20 hours you are teaching, or 30 hours you are teaching, and 10 hours or 20 hours you are investing in yourself to stay current. That has to be part of the equation. That it cannot be that you're just spending time on teaching what you already know, but you have to acquire new knowledge so that you are in a position to disseminate knowledge on an ongoing basis that is current, that is relevant, and that is useful. So the lifelong learning applies to everybody. Unfortunately, nobody, as Janine said, it's not an option, it's not a choice, it is, yeah. I do have, if I may, while we, clearly we are a self-selected group here, and we are singing praises of lifelong learning, and I'm a big believer of that also. At the same time, different strokes for different folks. So you look at it, vast majority of people, unless there is, they might want to go watch a movie or play some video game or watch a football game, those entertainment activities, socialize, drinking, whatever it is. Learning doesn't strike us as very high on the list of things that people do. That is just reality. We might lament that, and we will start criticizing. No, I don't want to do any of that. And that's why I said that if we demonstrate the benefit, then people are much more likely to spend some time and energy into that. And it was with that purpose in mind that I thought that skill-based training, call it vocational, whichever terminology you might want to use, that I think has considerable appeal to a broader segment of the society. And that's where investment in that would be helpful, and that's where the rewards, the benefits to both individual and to the society would be quite palpable. That's my view. It takes all the excitement out of it, because I'm trying to present this as somewhat cut and dry, demand, supply, as if I'm selling some watermelons or selling some detergent. That's how I'm describing it. But reality is that I think that, in my opinion, that is the practical side of it, and we have to come to grips with it. the Giris of the world and Janines of the world would make it more exciting, and there is a role for that, and we definitely want to do that. At the same time, I am pushing more nuts and bolts part of it.
I think that is the very, very important part. The nuts and bolts are the DNA of this. I'll quickly come to Janine again and ask her. Janine, you did mention about the challenges, and you did also touched upon a couple of challenges which you face, especially when dealing with the less, as you said, marginalized students and citizens, and bottom of the pyramid population, where internet, data, etc. can be a challenge. So what you think are the most important challenge you face in Singapore or elsewhere in your pursuit?
Thank you so much for the question, Dr. Bose. So actually, most of the population that we work with are not in Singapore. So they are in, Indonesia, Nigeria, Malaysia, Philippines, Thailand, etc. So we work in 9 countries. And I would say that, I really resonate with Professor Kothari's point about, we need to be practical, and data really is very showing, isn't it? The MOOCs of the world, right? Even the most popular massive open online courses have maybe completion rate of 1 to 2%, right? And that is the 1 to 2% that are highly motivated, where all of us really just want to go watch a movie, right? Or go out for drinks and so on, right? What we have, what I think is at the end of the day and at the crux of it is to tackle this thing, and in our opinion, to tackle this thing called motivation. We work mainly with youth. So between 15 to 25 years old or so. So that is our major demographic. And we chose to work on youth because youth actually are twice more likely to be out of school than the really young children, right? And at the same time, the youth actually already have this pressure to contribute to their families and so on, right? So how do we motivate them is a question that we ask on a daily basis. So we have been successful in some of their, this part of the brain kind of a work whereby we use gamification to get the youth interested, or we use social elements where they get their friends or a youth form a team of 5 and to solve puzzles together and advance or learn together. Or, actually, earlier last month, we ran a Squid Game learning challenge, right? So we run different things to make things fun for the youth. However, I think, what we need to also, and right now what we are working on and testing on are more prefrontal cortex stuff like, how do we link learning to their purpose in life, right? Because by stimulating their back brain, we're only going to get them to stay with us and learn very consistently for months. But to have them really pick up something substantial, we need them to stay for years, right? And I think this question of solving motivation is still very out in the open, right? And we are, working with many different interesting partners, like Max Planck Institute in Germany, that they work particularly, and in their cognitive science team, they have this special institute called the Rational Enhancement Group, where they help people make better decisions, right? Because a better decision will be to stay home to study, not to go out for a movie, right? So we have research from that perspective, but we also have other research from the perspective of behavioral science, right? So how do we change, behavior? And a lot of times, in the marginalized communities, right, there is also a very big challenge, which is the limiting mindset. So I can give you an example that we have, of one of the projects in Indonesia, where we work with young moms in, a slum area. And that project was in partnership with, a micro loan bank, right? So we brought our products and tools to introduce to the community. And, the immediate reactions that came back to us is, well, first, I don't have time. Well, everybody says that they don't have time, right? And then second thing is, oh, but I'm just a mom. I can't learn on my own. Or third thing is, I mean, we need to be in the classroom to learn. It's not possible to learn outside the classroom. There are many, many reasons why not, right, to do. So the take-up rate at the start was quite low, to be very honest, right, it's 17%. But what happened after 1 month was very interesting, right? We got a take-up rate of like 110 or 11%. We have extra 11%, not sure where they are from. And what happened was that the young moms, like the first batch, started learning and realized, hey, I can learn on my own, right? And then when they start doing that, they started to, like, we have pictures sent to us with the moms with this little phone with like maybe, 8 kids in front of them, and they just started learning, right? So, but they already started to, apply what they learned to the young children that they are that they have in their community. And so that's how, like, things flow, right? So what we have learned a lot is, in the marginalized communities, actually, community really matters. And social pressure and social influence is also very, very important. And I think lastly is that we really need to consider, the really, how do we design such that the learning is not deemed to be like so difficult that I can't do it, and too easy that I get bored, right? So how do we, be able to adjust to the right level at the right quantity in small quantities, and how do we dissect a big concept into many small concepts, right? I think that, and give people a sense of progress and achievement as they learn. I think those are the different, challenges that we have been working on. Yeah.
Thank you so much. That was very, very exhaustive, very comprehensively explained. Very nice. I love the gamification, and as Mr. Giri also mentioned about the quiz. I will quickly come to Mr. Giri Balasubramaniam and ask him about the challenges which you foresee and you face actually on the future readiness of the children, which you work quite closely with. What are the basic, most important challenges out of many micro challenges? What are the major challenges which you face?
Well, currently in the position that I sit in with government, one of our big challenges is to ensure that we do not have too much dropout rates from schools. That's a huge challenge for us. The pandemic has taken a toll, and it's taken a toll on people in the villages. So the first easy decision for a family with an able child is to get the child to earn money. And we need to stop that. So that's quite honestly the first big challenge that most governments in countries like ours, it's not just a problem with India, it's a problem with many countries. Beyond that, it is to teach the elders, and Professor Kothari touched on it. We sometimes don't spend enough time as a human race on reskilling or educating adults. And that creates a lot of problems. One of the countries, and probably Janine can comment on that, does that extraordinarily well is actually Singapore. They've got fantastic adult education programs because they've got an aging population. Japan does that. We don't reskill people. And let's accept one reality. you're going to be jobless far faster than you thought. You're going to be outdated far faster than you thought. You're going to live far longer than you thought. Now, those are amazing paradoxes, right? So if you're going to live far longer and you're going to be outdated far earlier, you've got a serious problem in your future. So I think those are the challenges that we're battling with. And the responsibility, funnily enough, country after country, falls on government. Government has to have that magic wand to solve all those problems. It's not true, but that's how society looks at life. So I think what Professor said was very, very pertinent. You've got to be practical, pragmatic, and look at life from what's really the possible. I'll stop.
Excellent, excellent, excellent. I think we have got some questions, Rakesh, there, but then I really feel even the government also needs to change the mindset as much, Giri, because the government, the bureaucrats, I'm talking from Indian perspective, and they also for over many years, I think they are also an aged bunch. I mean, unless you get a 30 years old as a minister for education, you can't do anything about it. So the mindset of the bureaucrats and the government think tank have to change first. And I'm so happy that people like you are now there to advise them. And we really expect something to happen now, especially in the dynamic states like Karnataka. Raki, we are in for any question, Raki. Please come and tell us.
Yes, sir. So my question, we have a few questions to Professor Kothari. The question that has come from the audience is that what is the new courses that one must do in finance and all to stay updated?
Well, in finance, I mean, these days, fintech is the rage. And so financial technology, and that has many tentacles. Of course, thing that gets talked about most these days, digital currency or cryptocurrency. So naturally, marrying technology with investment opportunities or how to invest, that is something that I think people have to pay attention to. In other finance does the function of various individuals have money and they want to invest. And then there are others who have opportunities to invest, right? In the sense that start a manufacturing plant or new product or new technology development. And what finance does is it brings these people with money to invest into those who have investment opportunities. And there is a lot of technological benefit in bringing these two groups of individuals together and exchanging that money more efficiently and having better control over how that money that individuals are investing, how that gets used by businesses. So I think that governance side of it, I think there is a lot to be learned, and technology is enormously helpful in that respect. So finance is at the, ultimately people have to produce better products, gadgets, and so that is most important, obviously, in my mind. But finance is something that facilitates that activity and gets it done more efficiently. And you can see that finance and financial technology, that is a very large part of the economy. So.
Right, sir. Thank you so much. And the next question is, there's especially after the pandemic, we are seeing a trend where people above the age of 40 are, tend to become, they're losing their jobs sooner. And everybody wants the younger people. So what will happen to all the experienced people? I mean, even if they upgrade themselves, and but organizations are looking at hiring only younger people. So any message for the people above 40, what to do?
I think lifelong learning is the solution. I mean, to some extent, I think older people also, we underestimate the role that they can play. There is a lot of role in terms of managing projects, in terms of executing projects, in terms of organizing activities. And that wisdom that older people have is enormously helpful. And that is not as easily possible just because you are technologically savvy or you are able to do certain technical things that younger people definitely, without a doubt, they do much better than older people right now. I mean, there are exceptions, of course. But let us not underestimate the wisdom that older individuals might have through their experience and ability to manage and ability to execute projects, ability to source funds, ability to communicate and sell the idea to a broader population. So there are a number of activities. I'm not that pessimistic about the fact that older people can, what they can do and cannot do.
So the next question is about the hospitality sector. People are wanting to know what is the future now that things are opening up. What can we look forward to?
I think it's things are actually coming back quite aggressively, and as somebody who is in the industry for now 30 years, I can say that we have never seen something like this before. The kind of heat that we got from the pandemic as an industry. But the good news is that the leisure travel and the food and beverage business has really come back much stronger than ever before. In fact, places like Bangalore, places like Calcutta, and even the smaller cities in India, they're doing the food and beverage business at a level of maybe 5 years back before that. I mean, much more than the COVID-19 period. The food and beverage business definitely up there. I have got an institution and a hotel in Goa, and I can tell you that this is absolutely jam-packed, not just in December and November, but even in August and September when it opened. The business travel has been sluggish, and we expect it to be sluggish till March or April. And obviously, the new variant of the virus can cause a little bit of a headache again, but hopefully it's not going to be that serious. I'm sure that business travel will come back. We are still now doing at an average of 60 to 65% occupancy in most of the business hotels in the major cities, which is not too bad. A lot of employment is going to take place and is already taking place. A lot of recruitments are happening. So I feel that give another 6 months plus minus, I think business would be almost at 70%, 75% of the pre-COVID figures.
Right. Thank you, sir. A question for Ms. Janine Teo. What does it take to be a successful woman leader and what are the prospects that women can look forward to?
I think that today is an exciting time for women leaders, especially I think more and more men are also, on top of there are more and more women stepping up as leaders. More companies are being very conscious of gender equality, as well as, more men are being champions of leaders. And I'm sure, my fellow panels are strong champions of female leaders. So I think that it is an exciting time, and if not now, when, right? So, but what could hold back women really is us not willing to step forward sometimes, right? So that is something that we need to check ourselves, right? And so for successful women leaders, and if you're aspiring to do so, I think, number one, make sure that you have a very strong support system. So meaning that, you have supportive family, I'm assuming that maybe it's asked by a young person. Make sure that you marry the right person, right? Now, and then also support yourself with other inspiring female leaders. I myself have like a group of, strong women entrepreneurs and leaders that I hang out with every month, and they give me so much energy, and we, support each other. So find your tribe, right? I think those two things are really, really important. And lastly, be authentic. At the start of my leadership journey, I was, I was actually, I started my career in, I'm trained in computer engineering, right? But randomly I went into hospitality, but the more techie side of hospitality. So I do, data science to, predict forecast demand and, and price elasticity and things like that, right? So when I went into that role and was placed in the leadership role where my direct reports are older than me, I felt like I needed to, wear super high heels or, dress much older to fit in per se. I think that, that's all in my head. And in fact, women, we can just embrace our, ourselves and be authentic. And I think, that will be able to bring you a longer journey ahead.
Oh, thank you so much. Last question we have, sir. I think Giri sir can answer this. What's the prospect for people, younger people, for going into government jobs? Should they pursue careers in government?
Well, one very important thing one must realize is government is changing. And it's a very big difference between the political system and governance. And that's a difference people don't really understand. And there are two things today when it comes to government, because it's a very good question you asked. One, in countries like ours, in a lot of other countries, it's civil service where you qualify to be a civil servant. That was the only track. Today, it's not true anymore. You've got lateral recruitment coming into government in every country. Niti Aayog has brought in so many people at lateral levels who come in directly at director levels, joint director levels, joint secretary levels. So there is a huge amount of opportunity in government. Second thing is, it's all about your willingness to figure in what space you want to be. I think that's going to be critical for the youth today. I want to quickly touch on one aspect that you spoke about, which is the older lot feeling vulnerable. I don't think so at all. Companies are going to look for a workforce which is young and an advisory force which comes with wisdom. The only difference is the younger force is probably going to be employed, the older force is going to be consulting. And if you are good at what you do, you're going to be in demand in multiple companies. So in theory, you might actually make more money than you were as an employee of one company if you are 40 or 45 plus, provided you are adding value. So where you add value is the key, not your age.
That's great. That's very inspiring, actually. So that's about it for questions. I think it's been a great panel, sir. Any
absolutely, and thanks very much, Sir Kothari, my friend Giri, and Janina for such an engaging discussion. And thanks very much, Rakhi, for giving all of us the opportunity to be a part of the INFOCOM 2021. And thanks to ABP Limited and Ruba Mukherjee for keeping the flame of the INFOCOM up there burning. And I'm really, really very proud to be a part of it. Thank you very much, all of you.
Thank you.
Gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you, esteemed speakers, Padma Shri, Professor S.P. Kothari. It's been an honor to have you, sir. Ms. Janine Teo, ma'am, it's been great. And Mr. Giri Balasubramaniam, sir, and Dr. Suborno Bose, sir, for such an insightful session. I think it was very contextual and very relevant. And with this, we come to the end of today's program. We will resume back tomorrow afternoon at 2 p.m. sharp with an interesting keynote by Mr. Manoj Chugh, who's a veteran and renowned ICT leader, who is currently the President Group Public Affairs at Mahindra & Mahindra. This will be followed by a very interesting keynote on China's new normal by Pascal Coppens, who is a tech entrepreneur and a sinologist and an author whose lifelong passion has been researching on China. We also have various interesting sessions tomorrow, including 2 spotlight sessions on the booming Indian unicorn industry and how they're moving forward despite all odds, and sustainable healthcare in the post-COVID world. And of course, a technology panel which talks about the future of digital and how we can use that to gear up. So kindly tune in tomorrow at 2 p.m. And a word about the sponsors for INFOCOM 2021, without whom we could not have made this possible. Our host state for the event is Government of West Bengal, Department of IT and Electronics, then Bebel. And our platinum sponsor is Airtel Business. Gold sponsors are Dell Technologies along with Intel and Entity Limited in India. Technology knowledge partner Accenture. Co-host STPI. Education partner JIS University. Tech learning partner Young Tech Olympiad and IndiSmart Group Initiative, and associate sponsors CrowdStrike, Pinnacle Infotech, Power Grid Corporation of India, Aaj Global Foundation School, and our association partners have been SARC CCI, NASCOM, CIO Club, TIE Kolkata, IEEE, ComSoc Kolkata chapter. And one last announcement that I have is Dr. Omkar Rai was supposed to deliver a keynote today, but unfortunately he had to leave because there was an urgent meeting that was called by the Ministry of IT. And we hope that he will be able to join us in the next 2 days. We will try and figure that out on which day he will be able to spare some time and deliver a keynote. And so thank you everyone for joining us today. Have a good evening and see you tomorrow again at 2 p.m. Thank you.